Today on Morning Drive, Design Week rolls on, and Jeff Shackelford is in studio for another installment of Architecture 101. He'll break down the 4 R's and talk template holes. Stay tuned to raise your golf IQ. And when it comes to style on the PGA Tour, Bryson DeChambeau is making a name for himself. He'll fill us in on the latest in his single-length equipment and the new threads he'll be sporting in the new year.
We've taken care of the tough job for you. All you got to do is swing that.
Plus, Matt Janella and Jeff Shackelford will be building their ultimate 18 holes in golf. Find out which iconic holes will be left off their lists and which sleeper holes will make the cut. And we want to hear what holes would top your list as well. All that and more on this Wednesday, December 6th, 2017. Inside Studio AP, it is Hump Day, it is Design Week. Damon Hack alongside Lauren Thompson. How you doing? I know you love golf and golf design. Do you have a golf hole that you would play over and over again? We know Matt and Jeff will be doing this a little bit later. What's your favorite golf hole?
Big question. You know, the golf in Dubai was looking pretty good.
Yes, it was.
I've never teed it up there personally, but one hole that I have played ad nauseum, 17 at TPC Sawgrass. And I know this probably makes a lot of people's lists when you're talking about great holes in the game of golf.
Yeah.
But this is definitely one of mine.
I would take 13 at Augusta National. I hit a fade, but it would force me to work on a draw. You know who hits a draw? Brittany Lincecum. That's what's happening now. She's in the mix already in Dubai, the Omega Dubai Ladies Classic. She opened with a 1 under par 71, a winner already on the LPGA Tour this season. She got it done in the Bahamas, the Pearson Bahamas LPGA Classic. She's also a 2-time major champ, one of the biggest hitters in the game on the LPGA Tour. LT, a lot of great names in the mix, a lot of notables, including a World Golf Hall of Famer in Laura Davies. She opened with a 3 under par 69. Georgia Hall and Charlie Hall, they're both European Solheim covers. And there you see the aforementioned Lincecum, a 1 under par 71 first round of the Omega Dubai Ladies Classic.
Well, this week Damon also brings us to Naples, Florida, in a QBE shootout. You're going to see Harris English and Matt Kuchar at Tiburon Golf Club defending their titles in this unique team event hosted by the World Golf Hall of Famer Greg Norman. It's going to be live coverage on Golf Channel. It starts Friday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and you're going to want to pay attention to these groupings. How about major champion Lexi Thompson playing in the QBE shootout for just the second time? She's going to be teeing it up with a fellow big hitter in Tony Finau at 11:15 a.m. for the Friday Scramble portion of the event. That's good stuff to watch.
Absolutely. Also happening now, or perhaps not happening now, Louis Oosthuizen having to withdraw from the Joburg Open. Check this out. So he injured his fingers while pulling a trolley in the airport after the Mauritius Open, so we won't see that sweet swinger at the Joburg Open. But the Open qualifying series does continue. You know it well. It travels around the globe, 15 events around the world, 10 countries, 5 continents, 46 qualifying spots. 3 of those spots were filled, as you can see at the bottom right, the Australian Open, Cameron Davis, Jonas Blixt, and Matt Jones. And how about that Cameron Davis Instagram and Twitter star can swing from the right side and the left side. And the calendar moves closer to the summer. We got the PGA Tour stops. Then we hit the United Kingdom once again. We got the Scottish Open, the Irish Open, the French Open. We're getting ever closer to where Carnoustie. It'll host the Open Championship for the 8th time, the 147th Open. Of course, Padraig Harrington won back in 2007. Paul Lawrie picked up the pieces from John Van de Velde back in 1999. Cannot wait for the 147th Open.
Me neither, Damon. So a lot of golf to pay attention to in those events. Also the ones in the coming days that we mentioned. So you're going to want to tune in to Morning Drive too, because Design Week rolling on strong with great guests and a goal of taking your knowledge of this angle of the game to the next level. So let's get it going on this Wednesday morning by saying good morning to our travel insider Matt Janella and author, blogger, and of course architect himself, Jeff Shackelford.
Yeah, good morning, LT. Damon, good morning to you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Jeff, welcome back to Design Week here on a Wednesday. Excited about this?
I'm very excited. We love to spread the gospel of golf architecture.
And yesterday you touched on renovation and redesign as we're doing Architecture 101. Today, remodel restoration. Take us through them.
Well, yeah, we have all these terms, and there are a lot of R's, obviously, but the main point is to kind of help people understand, because this is really the movement right now in golf course design, a lot of restoration, remodel, redesign. So we want you to say the right word when describing a project. those two we covered yesterday, as you said. Remodeling, I think this is probably what we see most going on at courses, and that's affecting moderate to radical changes in an existing golf course. You know, the example you think of there, or at least I think of most recently, is Quail Hollow last year that hosted the PGA Championship. Of course, players knew, but they made some pretty significant changes on an existing golf course, both kind of under the grass and then on top with bunkering and different features.
Did you get the sense that was all well received?
No, I did not. It was not. And the players, though, that's the trick in these projects. When you get to know a golf course and you make a remodel, you make major changes, you put yourself at risk at upsetting the people who've come to love a golf course.
Right. All right. And then restoration.
Well, and obviously this is the movement that means a lot to many of us who love old golf courses and love the classics. And it's actually more sensitive than you think. It seems commonsensical, restoration, reestablishing a hold of the concept of the original designer. But as you know, Matt, there's a lot of nuance there, a lot of debate sometimes on what is the original architect's intent. And so we use old photos and we use writings to kind of decide what to restore. And it's so there's a very key distinction, though. And when an architect is using these different words, you've got to be on the lookout.
Example there?
Well, I think Pinehurst has become the ultimate example of restoration and the one people think of now the most because it was the most dramatic change. Now, there are elements there that aren't Donald Ross, but ultimately, you know, it is as close as you can get to what people think was his vision. And it's the one that people look to as the kind of transformation that really took a very nice golf course that had not evolved very well back to what it should be.
Yeah, I remember Don Padgett, then the president of Pinehurst, going into the 2014 U.S. Open, saying, I even think Donald Ross would give co-design credit now to Bill Corr and Ben Crenshaw for how thoughtful they did in terms of that restoration.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, another term that gets kicked around a lot is template holes. Tell us a little bit about template holes and what it means to the game of golf.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. You'll hear this talked about a lot, and it's one that I think some of us who love golf architecture, we are fascinated that people love template holes and are interested in them, but we're also a little concerned we don't want to stifle the art of golf architecture. It's a classic golf hole, really. This is how the great Jeffrey Cornish and Robert Muir Graves described it. It's a term used to describe any renowned hole, but restricted in design circles to the famous holes that have been widely adapted to other courses. And of course, we know these names now. You hear them all the time: the Redan, the Alps, the Cape, and Eden. And these are based on famous golf holes in Scotland and England and the UK.
Okay, a couple examples of that. Maybe we can see some big examples of that.
Yeah, so here's an example, a modern example of somebody taking a Cape concept that C.B. McDonald brought over here and using it at Doral. This is at Gil Hanse's redesign of Doral, and it's a hole that plays over the water, and you bite off as much as you want, and it's one that a lot of golfers don't like to look at because it's a forced carry situation, but it's been the basis of so many great golf holes that have been built.
Example of a punch bowl.
The punch bowl, yeah, again, very self-explanatory. A lot of examples in Scotland, but I think the one that most people come back to is this one here at Cruden Bay. It's you see the green down in the bottom of the screen there, in the shadows because it's in a bowl, and it is. You throw that ball up there, and everything feeds down to the bottom. It's a lot of fun to play to a punch bowl, but they're a little tougher to design than you might think.
This would be an opposite example of what would be a Donald Ross green, I guess, in that specific situation.
Most definitely.
One of the originals. You know, we're talking about template holes, and especially now in modern design, the question that I sort of have for you is, do you prefer architects who are building a new course to find template holes or to manufacture template holes? What, you know, where do you stand on that?
Well, we want them to find the best holes, period. And when C.B. McDonald kind of brought these concepts over here, it was to improve golf architecture. It was kind of at a bad time. So we were trying to elevate the art at the time, and then the restoration movement has tried to elevate that. But ultimately, you want architects to find the best holes. And then if they find a natural situation, I think like we're looking at here, that's the ideal, that they can and maybe embed those old ideas into a new piece of ground.
Here we are in Inverness, Nova Scotia. We got the Google Maps version of a sort of a pie slice of what Corr and Crenshaw had to work with in building Cabot Cliffs. And I was privy to some of the early, you know, walking around and kind of routing decisions that Bill and Ben had to make in terms of coming up with their ultimate 18 on this piece of property. property. And I remember very distinctly walking around with Bill and him saying, well, here, look, we were sort of driving out of this part of the property before, any development had been done. And these were just sort of the wispy dunes of this part of the property. And he said, here we have a natural cape hole where there was a green sort of, what could easily be a green right here and a tee here with this sort of open area, sort of that water that, as the tide comes in and out, this becomes water. And to your point, you can bite off as much as you decide to do there. So it was a natural cape hole, playing to a 6th tee here with a 6th green here where someone had done some excavating of some of the dunes many, many years before that, and it was a natural punch bowl. He loved these two potential holes, but there was a routing issue of how to get from the 6th green to what would ultimately be a 7th tee and a 7th fairway. Up there, it was actually Ben Cowandour, Mike Kaiser's partner on this project, that kind of helped Corin Crenja unlock that project. So they had found two template holes, but they were going to struggle to figure out how they were going to fit into the routing. To their credit, they did. It works, and now you have these natural holes, and it's a key element to why the front 9 is as spectacular as the back 9.
Well, and if Ben and Bill are finding template holes, they try to find their own original ideas, but when they find them, then it must be great ground.
Yeah, and it's so much fun to look for these and to play them. More importantly, LT, hopefully in Architecture 101, you learned something.
Yeah, that is the goal today. Really cool way of looking at template holes. Much more from those guys later in the show. We have a busy Wednesday ahead, and our lineup includes some fantastic perspectives from go-to guests, including a PGA Tour winner who's been called a mad scientist with how he performs on the course. Bryson DeChambeau, the way he revamps the game and the design process he never expected to come full circle, all the way to you at home, the avid amateurs. We also are going to dive into the design process of an ever-important part of the golf game with our Golf Channel equipment expert, Matt Adams. He's going to zero in on how a top company specifically built an area to learn more about how the golf ball reacts. You're going to see the super consistent player who's part of the testing, and it isn't even a person. Interesting stuff. Then we have a battle on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, they looked like they were getting along moments ago, but this is going to require your vote towards the end of the show. Jeff Shackelford versus Matt Janella and their ultimate 18 holes across the game, creating a fantasy layout. So see how they stack it up and which one you would rather play. Now, something else that we're going to need to hear from you before that happens with Matty G and Jeff Shackelford. What would make your ultimate 18? Give us 3 great examples that are famous holes across the game of golf. Use that hashtag MD Design Week. Your answers are going to be today on the show. So those responses are on the way, but also a top tip from a tour pro to finding the bottom of the cup. We'll be back in just a bit.